Oh, hey there. Just finished my meditation for the afternoon. Do you meditate? I have found, as the director of a chiropractic and wellness center, that meditation and stress management is one of the biggest keys to success with our patients. Now, I don't teach the meditation myself. I've learned several different systems, which I'll talk about here in a second. But what I have found is that a lot of patients are having issues in their tissues. They're holding a lot of physical stress, whether it's in their neck or their mid back or their low back or somewhere else in their body. And it's often just related to stress. So this type of stress, if you don't manage it, will, one, what's important in my practice, it's going to limit your results. And two, it's really going to decrease the quality of your life, right? Because our bodies are hardwired to handle threats. The problem is we have a lot of 21st century problems that are seen by our body as legitimate threats, right? Fear responses. And this triggers a stress cycle. And if you can't break out of that cycle, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And we see that throughout our society. We see a lot of people who are sick with their mental health and their stress and anxiety levels. And ultimately, then it can turn into depression and burnout. And so if you are dealing with these issues, I would highly encourage you to meditate, because it may seem like new age, but it's really not. It's a proven practice at this point. It's an evidence-based practice. And when I first, to give you a little background, when I first started practicing, the first thing I noticed was when I was a football player. I was a college football player, and I, in the off season, would start doing some yoga to help with my flexibility. And at the end of the yoga, they make you do this thing called shavasana, or corpse pose. You lay on the ground for like 5-10 minutes, just totally still, and just kind of get lost in your thoughts. I kept kind of coming out of that, realizing, wow, I'm really feeling rested. It feels like I took a long nap, and I've only just exercised for like 50 minutes, and I laid down for like 5 minutes. So it definitely had an impression on me, but I didn't think much of it. I just thought that was cool. But it opened my mind up to thinking about it more and more. And as I had increasing stress levels, as I went through graduate school and then eventually became to start my own practice, I realized I needed to manage my stress on a whole new level, right? And so exercise alone was not enough. Just positive thinking alone was not enough. I've always had those things strong in my wellness index, but the thing that I was not doing was really addressing my mental health. So of course, things like therapy can really help with that. But there's another type of mental health that you have to deal with in terms of just daily maintenance. And that's really making sure your nervous system is not getting hijacked by 21st century problems. And what I mean by that is, we're hardwired evolutionarily to really look at threats and figure out, do we need to fight, flight, or freeze, right? So we see a big saber-toothed tiger, well, we got to fight it or run away or whatever it might be, right? But the problem is now, with all the text messages and notifications and emails and traffic and all these things that we deal with in our 21st century, these problems are triggering the same hardwiring that a serious threat like a tiger would do, right? And so we're not really getting away from these threats. We're just constantly living in a state of stress and fear and anxiety, and eventually that can lead to burnout and depression. And while I don't treat these things individually in the practice, I do recommend them regularly, or I should say I recommend a holistic approach regularly. So when it comes to things like meditation, breath work, yoga can be a great entry point for that. And you don't have to do some hardcore meditation, right? There's a lot of ways to practice meditation and mindfulness. Myself, I got into, after the initial bout of yoga, I continued to do yoga, saw more and more profound effects with that, and then eventually started doing a guided meditation through the Headspace app. I found it extremely effective. I enjoyed the app for over a year, and then eventually, time lapsed, I fell off my routine, whatever it might be. I started going back to YouTube. I started finding excellent guided videos on YouTube. There's some great channels out there that have great content, very, very helpful. And again, I really felt like I progressed a level with my stress management. And as I was, sharing this with a fellow colleague, he mentioned transcendental meditation. So that's what I practice now, transcendental meditation, or TM for short. With TM, you are taught by an instructor for a day or two. They go through the practice. You typically meditate twice a day, 20 minutes. And so I do one in the morning, more or less first thing. Once I get up, maybe walk the dogs, I'll come back and meditate. And then I try to get one in the afternoon. And I'll tell you what, the difference of me not doing the routine versus doing it, especially when I'm getting that second meditation in every day, is profound. I mean, I come out of the resting room here where I am now. This is normally where we rest people after their upper cervical adjustments. And when I come out of here, I feel like I just took like a 2 or 3 hour power nap, you know, and like, I guess that wouldn't really be a power nap, more like cat nap. And, you know, when I get out of here, 20 minutes and I feel totally refreshed and I can start seeing people again and really not feel like I'm just kind of draining my batteries slowly throughout the day. Because what I noticed was when that was happening is I'd get home and I'd still have a lot of things I need to do in life. I need to take care of the family. I might have some personal things I need to do. And I just felt drained. I felt agitated. I felt edgy. And when I meditate regularly, I don't have those effects. So again, I highly endorse it, whether it's a practice like TM or doing some guided meditations or even just starting with some simple breath work. Great place to start with that is the book called Breathe by James Nestor. Excellent read with a great section in the back on how to practice different breathing techniques that can help either energize you or relax you. And quite honestly, both are important, but most of us are really struggling with the getting the deep relaxation effect, right? And a lot of people are like, well, I can sleep fine, but it's out of pure exhaustion, right? And what we find is I actually wear this Oura ring when I'm meditating regularly, when I'm exercising regularly, my sleep scores go up. When I neglect those things, I might be sleeping, but the quality of sleep is not nearly as good. And when you start having poor quality of sleep, it's just as bad as poor quantity of sleep. So it's just like having sleep deprivation. Even though you may be in bed for 6 to 8 hours, you're just not getting that battery recharged every single night. And so I oftentimes will be feeling a patient's back and I can just feel a certain rigidity to it that doesn't feel quite the same as a misalignment would. And when I start asking this patient maybe how their day is going or what kind of stress levels they're experiencing, they'll tell me usually, and sometimes they don't, but they're working in an environment maybe that is causing just such regular chronic stress that they're having a hard time even identifying when they do feel stressed, because it's pretty much just 24/7. And so there's some objective ways to look at how your body is handling stress, and I look at patients in the office with that. And what I would encourage you to do is, if you think you're really struggling and you've been curious about meditation, is just to try it, just jump in. It's not some weird voodoo Eastern practice. It's very, normalized. It's very evidence-based, and it can be really whatever you want it to be. But it's just about taking time for yourself, inside yourself, and taking away all this stimulation that we have in our world and giving our brain a chance to recharge, kind of reconnect and clean itself up. And that's literally what the science shows is happening. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Again, I'm Dr. Norris Goldberg. I'm the owner here at Koru Chiropractic Corrective Care and Wellness.